Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
I have not loved this conversation.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Around the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. TGIF, Friday. Got a good show for y'all today. Fun stuff, as always. Waldorf coin. No Waldorf coin. Although, if you want to help out, there's always my Patreon. Patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Just another way. If you want to throw your money away, I mean, you can at least throw it at me, All right, anyway. We're going to have a fun show today. We have, of course, more regrets from not vaccinating. I've got two stories here on that. We got Donald Trump, of course, back in the news, grifting his followers. We also have him raging, of course, in the fun story about baseball. Let's just say that. Baseball. The base of ball. You can tell how much I know about sport. All right, anyway. Then we have an interesting update on the Sandy Hook lawsuits against none other than Alex Jones. Interesting.
I will eat your ass.
Now, I'm sure you will, Alex. After your deal with that whole thing. Fun stuff. Let me tell you what, I don't want to give it too much away on that. And then, of course, I'm going to go after the Biden administration for caving, surrendering, whatever you want to call it, to activists. I'm sorry, not to activists. I wish they would cave to activists. But telling activists, hey, there's nothing really what, we can do anything about voting rights. But don't worry, you got this. You can handle it. All right. Fun times. I can tell how much you love saying base too. Hey, it's a thing. It's Twitch parlance among the gamer folk, my people. All right, anyway. So, yeah, that's going to be the show today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very helpful, again, if you do. And if you want to throw me money, there's different ways to do that. Super chats, I like to read those. There's, of course, also helping out on Twitch, bits and giving out subs to fellow peoples. And then we also have, of course, there's support on Facebook, too. So you can also, if if you're somebody who's watching on Facebook, and I know you're there, I know you exist, and I appreciate you, you can support the show by signing up for that as well. So all that stuff helps us out. All right, anyway, I suppose we ought to dive into it. We'll start out with some regrets. Good old regrets. Oops. How many times are we going to do these stories? A right-wing radio host is having some regrets about not getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Like many other members of the far right, Phil Valentine not only refused to get the vaccine, but also, of course, downplayed COVID-19 on his show. I'm going to give you some examples of that. Back in December, he tweeted this. He said, "I have a very low risk of A, getting COVID, and B, dying of it if I do. Why would I risk getting a heart attack or paralysis by getting the vaccine?" Now, of course, he's talking about adverse effects of the vaccine, which, yes, have been recorded, but they've been recorded at incredibly low incidences. Whereas, of course, dying from COVID or getting sick with COVID and having significant symptoms, long-lasting symptoms, there's long-haul COVID, you're much more likely to have to deal with that if you don't get the vaccine. And so that's why if you're looking at mitigating risk, you're safer off going with the vaccine because there's just less risk in taking it than it is doing obviously what he's doing. And I'm going to show you how that ended up. But first, he also said back in April, quote tweeting this. This is what he quote tweeted and responded to. Forced inoculation of an experimental vaccine, no consent, no FDA approval / long-term data, and the J&J, the Johnson & Johnson, which has now been federally halted. CA, Operation Homebound, criminal, #criminal. All right, so look, the J&J, Johnson & Johnson did get halted. Out of 12.8 million doses of the vaccine that were given out, you had about 100 reported adverse effects that were fairly serious. So now, okay, 100 out of 12.8 million, that just shows you how serious that they're actually taking these possible, interactions or not interactions, sorry, but, taking these adverse reactions, right? They're taking it incredibly seriously because they want to put out something that's safe and that helps them with their stocks and all that stuff, as well as their PR, their reputation. So now anyway, he quote tweeted that and said, "I'm avoiding Twitter, but I just had to let you see this. It should scare the hell out of everybody." To that I say, well, yeah, that's the whole point. The whole point of putting out that nonsense is to scare gullible rubes. Honestly, look, I've told you over and over again, nobody's out there, forcing people to get vaccines. We think you should, but we can't just jam it into people's arms. We know that. You should all know that. And that's never going to happen. But what we could do and should do is encourage people with the facts to go and get vaccinated. Now, unfortunately, in order to do that, you have to continue to counter a mountain of bullshit, which is what, of course, he's tweeting out. So now there's a limit, of course, in how much that works, how much you can actually fight against that. But what does seem to work in many cases, and look, I showed you a video yesterday of a man who got sick with COVID. It was all over Twitter. Got sick with COVID in the hospital. And, he's like, well, I'm still not getting the vaccine. Okay. All right. Well, again, there's only so much, mileage you get out of trying to tell the truth about the vaccine, as well as people having to experience it for themselves. But generally, you do see a lot of stories of people who do get it, who do get COVID-19 and say, oh man, I thought this was a hoax. It turns out this is real. It's real as a heart attack. And so, yeah, get your vaccine. And so this guy is one of those stories, and I've got another one as well. So now the family of right-wing radio host Phil Valentine reports that he had been hospitalized from the coronavirus is in very serious condition, according to WKRN-TV. I just had a thought, random thought. WKRN. Random thoughts, I know. But anyway, serious story. He is being treated, Mr. Valentine, for COVID pneumonia in the critical care unit of Nashville Hospital, according to his family. On July 11th, Valentine revealed that he had tested positive for coronavirus. And here's what he said, quote, "Yes, the rumors are true. I have COVID. Unfortunately for the haters out there, it looks like I'm going to make it. Interesting experience." Well, I guess that's one way to put it. Now, he says, "I'll have to fill you in when I come back on the air. I'm hoping that will be tomorrow, but I may take a day off just as precaution." That was back, it said, again, on July 11th. That was nearly 2 weeks ago. That guy ain't back on the air, guaranteed, because he's right now sitting in the hospital in severe condition. Turns out, COVID, much more serious than he realized, and how many times do we have to tell this story? It's the same thing. Herman Cain literally died. But he's like, "Oh, I got COVID. I'm fine. Everything's going fine. I'm in the hospital. I'm recovering. I'll be out in, very, very soon." Yes. And then it turns out, no, he wasn't out very soon. Well, at least not alive. No, he came out of the hospital in a body bag. That's what happens. Now, the network noted that Valentine had been, quote, critical of the vaccine, voicing his concerns over safety. However, his family now says that he regrets putting out misinformation. Quote, "Phil would like for his listeners to know that while he has never been anti-vaxxer," oh, really? That sounds kind of anti-vaxxerish, the kind of stuff that he was talking about. He regrets not being more vehemently pro-vaccine and looks forward to being able to more vigorously advocate that position as soon as he is back on the air, which we all hope will be soon. Please continue to pray for his recovery, and please go get vaccinated, his family added. Now look, hey, I hope the guy learned his lesson. I hope he makes a recovery and does exactly what he says he's going to do. Go back and say, "Hey, look, this is no joke. This virus is not fucking around." Because we were not fucking around when we say the virus is real. And by we, I mean doctors, scientists, epidemiologists, as well as people who talk about this stuff, like myself. We're not messing with you. We are not trying to screw around with you. Look, you think that we're out here pleading with people to take the virus seriously and get vaccinated because we want to run your fucking life? I can barely run my own life. Well, what do I want to deal with yours? You think I want to control what you do? No. You know what? I don't want to see people die needlessly. That's what I care about, okay? Or give birth to, any sort of deadlier or worse variants and end up being sick, getting sick from that myself, okay? That's it. Yeah, call it enlightened self-interest in some cases. But I don't want to see people suffer. I don't want to see people die. And that's the bleeding heart live in me. Understand? Yes, I'm a very empathetic person. And I don't want people to have to go through this bullshit. This is why I'm trying to fight. I'm trying to fight on your behalf. I'm trying to help you, whether you want it or not. And so it's not a conspiracy to control you. It's to try to keep me and my family, my loved ones, safe, and to try to get back to doing some of the things that I love to do without worrying about getting other people sick like that with this virus. That is just more than the common cold. That is a lot more than just the flu. It is deadly. It has killed over 600,000 Americans. So, look, the stuff that you took for granted, by the way, people like this guy, and the anti-maskers and the anti-vaxxers, while the rest of us were locked down, that while we buckled down and tried to do the responsible thing like a goddamn adult, okay, you took advantage of that. You took that for granted. We did the right thing. And even if you had acted like an adult, by the way, during the lockdowns, that doesn't mean that you can get away with not getting your vaccine. Look what happened to 56-year-old former nurse Christy Henry. Here's what she said to CNN. She said that she had worn a mask in public and rarely came into contact with other people. So she, self-quarantined essentially, or, didn't go out in big crowds, didn't go to super spreader events. She wore the mask when she had to go out. But after the vaccine came out and was widely distributed, she decided not to take it. Her and her family said, oh, we don't need it. Wow. In fact, she said that she felt because of their rural location and lifestyle, their risk of exposure to this virus was low. However, she began to feel unwell about 3 weeks ago. Turns out, she ended up getting coronavirus. Here's what she told CNN, quote, never in a million years do you think it's going to happen to you. But it did. Her family did not have any gatherings on the 4th of July. She's not even sure how she got infected. But now she and her husband, Lonnie, are in the hospital recovering from COVID-19, while one of her 6 children also tested positive and avoided hospitalization. Lonnie is currently on a ventilator. Christy herself had been intubated for at least 2 days. Her doctor told her that she was lucky to be alive. Her words on that from her hospital bed, quote, COVID-19 is extremely, extremely serious. Please get vaccinated. These are facts. It's not a liberal hoax. It's not political. It's not some conspiracy. This is real. The Delta variant is incredibly contagious. It is a disease now of the unvaccinated, and it doesn't have to be. You may think you're safe, but you're not. This thing does not mess around. For God's sakes, get your vaccine. But masks are about controlling us, they say. And if you wear a mask for no reason, the worst thing that happens is you wore a mask. I know, right? Let's see. As Majority Report Sam Cedar says, your mask protects me, my mask protects you. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to work. That's exactly how it's supposed to work. All right. Look, I don't do these segments because it's fun, right? Shitting on these people. Really, I try not to. I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to illustrate, like, hey, this stuff happens. You're not safe. You got to protect yourself with the vaccine. There are tools that you can use. There are ways that you can make yourself and your neighbors and your community more safe. How on earth do we have to keep saying this? Because people still do not believe it. And that is unfortunately the reality of this situation. It sucks. Yeah, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, fuck around and find out. Unfortunately, exactly it. That's the problem. We would prefer if people took things seriously from the beginning. Stop owning yourselves by owning us. Ain't nobody getting owned here, except for themselves. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go to some fun grifting. Speaking of owning themselves, For former President Donald Trump, the grift never ends. Following in his loss in the election, and yes, he lost, Trump's super PAC has been busy raising money from his culty little fan base who are convinced that they can carry him back in the White House, despite him being, of course, an incredibly pathetic, whiny loser. Sad baby. Beta male. So now how much money has he been raising? Well, according to the Washington Post, his political action committee has raised $75 million off the rubes. Imagine how many poor people could have been fed or housed with that money. Just saying. Instead, of course, they're giving money to Trump. What an absolute waste. Hey, it's your money. Yeah. Are you going to give it to that guy? You might as well burn it. You might as well flush it down the toilet. Or give it to me. Anyway. But no, you don't understand, Jeff. It's to save democracy. It's to stop the steal. To put Donald Trump back where he belongs. Because it was stolen from him. Oh, you think that's where the money's going? Buckle up, sir. Buckle up. According to people with knowledge of the PAC's inner workings, Donald Trump has apparently not spent a single dime of that money to support the audits in Arizona and the other states. In fact, here's the thing. I keep hearing from trolls online that Arizona is going to be the domino, right? Oh, as soon as Arizona, the whole audit, the cyber ninjas, they're going to reveal the fraud, and they're going to show that the bamboo ballots were from China, and the ghost of Hugo Chavez had messed with the machines. And Arizona, it's going to prove the massive voter fraud and put Donald Trump back where he belongs in the White House. Okay, well, if that's true, then why is Donald Trump not throwing all his resources and support, or any resources and support, into the Arizona audit? I mean, is he, well, okay, that's kind of a bad question. I was just going to ask if he's too stupid, but we already know the answer to that question. He is really stupid. But here's the other thing, right? Well, there's nothing to do there, okay? There's no fraud defined. It doesn't exist. But anyway, that said, we do know he is spending the money. And you're not going to be surprised that he is spending it on himself. Apparently, the Save America Leadership PAC, which has few limits on how it can actually spend the money, has paid for some of the former president's travel, legal costs, and staff, along with other expenses. Oops. The PAC has also held on to much of its cash. So the money's still there, and he's not sending it to Arizona. He's not sending it to the other states. He's not even sending it to Republicans to help them win that are pro-Trump. He's just keeping most of the money and then spending the rest of it on himself. Oops. Again, if you were not spending it on election challenges or anything like that, then what do you plan on doing with it? Well, here's my idea. He's going to live off it like a bum. You know why? Because he's not actually a billionaire. That's the thing. This guy's a fail son in a massive, and likely in massive debt. Debt that, of course, is coming close to being due, in which, of course, he'll likely, hear me now, quote me later, at some point he's going to, within the next couple of years, he's going to declare bankruptcy for the 7th time. You know it's going to happen. Come on. How do people not see that he's a con man? How do they not understand that? Maybe it's because they see him on TV and they're surrounded by conservative media. Okay, sure. There's that, that sanitized effort they got from The Apprentice billionaire, brilliant, salesman and all that stuff. And then, look at that wonderful president. And then I was reading something earlier today. I was actually kind of kind of talks about the myth, I guess, of exceptionalism by the rich. There is apparently this belief among certain people that rich people are more moral, they're smarter, they're better. That's how they got their money, right? And that poor people aren't any of those things, and that's why they're poor. And so, obviously, Donald Trump, in their minds, has to be rich and has to be a born leader, a good leader, a great businessman, super smart, all the stuff that he already says about himself because he's allegedly rich. No, but the guy's just a con man. He's always been a con man, always will be a con man, and pretty soon he'll be a poor con man. And so, but they believe all that stuff that he says about himself and that people on Fox News say about him. And so it's interesting that the generation that warned us not to believe the things that we see on TV now apparently believes everything that they see on TV as long as it comes from Fox News. Speaking of TV, by the way, MSNBC's Steve Bannon wrote that the report raises the question of whether Trump is, quote, genuinely delusional and believes he really won the election, or that he's a little more than a con man. And he says, quote, it's an interesting debate, but this new reporting suggests the resolution of the question isn't altogether relevant. Regardless of Trump's true beliefs, his apparent priority is making sure his followers keep sending him their money. The scheme is working again. So now that's an interesting perspective. And I think that's a fairly accurate perspective. Sure, yes, he wants people to keep sending him money. But to the question, of course, or debate, I don't really think it's much of a debate. Is he delusional? Absolutely. Is he a con man? Yep. Why not both? That's what I say. Why not both? Yes, delusional con man. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Of course. But here's the other question. The more important question is, what do you have to do to convince people not to give him their money? This dipshit grifter. I mean, it feels like when you try to convince people that he's a con man, you're Sisyphus pushing the boulder uphill, right? And it's just going to roll back down in your face. I don't know. How do you convince people that, Trump's not even a conservative? What kind of conservative values does he have? No, he's a racist con man. And that's really it. And the sad part about that is the Republican Party has made him the face of their party. And not just that, but Trump is their entire identity. It's really, really weird. It's bizarre. And how do you break people out of that? Because it is being correctly called a cult. It's exactly what it is. And so now, as far as the conservatives as far as conservatives are concerned, right? Pro-Trump people, you're not triggering anybody by liking Trump. I hate to tell you that. In reality, we're laughing at you. And we kind of feel bad for you, actually. We're rolling our eyes at the fact that supposedly functional adults could literally be this dumb and follow a guy like that like lemmings off a damn cliff. It's just super sad and pathetic. I don't know how to help these people. All right. That's what makes Trump a conservative. Conservatives are transphobic, sexist, and racist. I mean, you don't have to be somebody who's conservative, though. At least, yeah, maybe economics. I don't know. Anyway, all right. I need to take a break here real quick. We'll be back around the nation.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here. Waldorf Nation. Waldorf here with you. All right, so here we go. Sorry about that. I had to answer a phone call real quick. All right, so let's look at some comments here. Conservatives want small government. Yep. All the tax breaks for the rich and all the power to make sure everyone lives the same life except for the elites. Okay. Thank you, Kentucky Progressive Dragon. Let's see. Jeff, that is what makes Trump a conservative. Conservatives are transphobic, racist, and sexist. I already read that. Conservatism is a reactionary movement. Let's just say that. Conservatives are a reactionary movement, and so, yeah, if there's progress when it comes to things like racial equality, equality when it comes to just equality in general, yeah, generally conservatives are going to push back against that, even though it doesn't necessarily matter. But they are essentially a reactionary movement. But what happens, society continues to progress and progress and progress. And the older stuff that conservatives were reacting against eventually becomes normalized. And so what conservatives are is they're a pushback, right? They're a pushback reactionary force anytime there's any sort of progress made. And so I think maybe at some point in the future, they might not be racist or sexist, but they might be like something like horrible, like we make contact with aliens, they're going to be, xenophobic against aliens. And so there's always going to be that opposing force to push back on progress. And that's what conservatives are. At least in my view. All right. I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that, because maybe I'm way off. All right. Hello, people of planet Earth. Oh, get them illegal aliens out of there. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's go to the next story. Hear from our good old friend, Alex Jones. Likes to talk about the aliens, by the way. The lizard people and the, what is it? No, I can't think about it. No, I can't think of it. I want to go to space. I want to have the international travel. Oh, God. All right. Anyway, Alex Jones. Fun. Alex Jones is apparently getting a little desperate in the defense against the Sandy Hook parents and their impending lawsuits. So now, in case you might have forgot or are unaware, there are multiple civil cases that were filed by relatives of the victims of the 2012 school shooting, in which Alex Jones had called a false flag operation. Those civil cases are actually set for trial in the spring of 2022. So those cases are disastrous for Jones. And so it's going to be fun to watch. So here's the thing. Alex Jones has already admitted that he's an actor and that nobody should take him seriously. That's the Alex Jones defense. Tucker Carlson also used it on his show. And what that is that it's a strategy to say, oh, what are you talking about? I'm just an entertainer. That's all I am. I'm not actually saying anything serious. No, nobody in their right mind would actually believe the nonsense that I say. Oh, my God. Well, the thing is, that doesn't seem to be working. And so what they're doing is they're calling on a last-ditch strategy before those lawsuits reaches a Connecticut courtroom in May. So get ready for this one. He wants to blame this, the existence of these lawsuits, on Hillary Clinton. What? Hillary Clinton everybody. In a July 1st court hearing, Jones's lawyers asked a judge to order that Hillary Clinton be deposed in this case. Why? Why? What does she have to do with any of this? Why are you going to bring Hillary Clinton out of the woods for your stupid little case? Jones' attorneys insist that Clinton should be interviewed as a witness, implying in court filings that she could somehow have been involved in funding or organizing the lawsuits against Jones. The defendants in the case believe that the suit was filed 6 years after the shootings at Sandy Hook as part of a vendetta inspired, orchestrated, and directed in whole or in part by Hillary Clinton as part of a vendetta to silence Alex Jones after Ms. Clinton lost in the presidential race to Donald Trump, the motion reads. Wow. The litigation is brought and pursued in bad faith as part of a partisan effort to silence Mr. Jones for reasons wholly independent of the merits of the plaintiff's claims. This is fucking bonkers. That's what this is. Look, conservatives love to talk about Trump derangement syndrome, right? And okay, there's maybe a few media figures out there that are a little deranged, to be fair. But here's the thing. You also have a lot of media figures on the right that are incredibly deranged. And in this case, everything comes back to Hillary. I don't like Hillary Clinton. I'm pretty sure that I've been open about my dislike of her and her politics. I think she's kind of awful. I think she's, the face of the establishment. And I don't like the way that she punches left. I think it's kind of sickening, really, honestly. But that's my political disagreements with her, okay? But, seriously. Come on, man. Really? Come on, man. The Sandy Hook parents are suing because Alex Jones could not stop calling the deaths of their children fake. Remember, he accused dead children of being crisis actors and implied that these families never even existed in the first place. Oh, it's government crisis actors. That's what it is. A false flag. Come take our guns. Now, here's the thing. I couldn't imagine the pain of losing a child in the first place. But then, on top of it, somebody out there with a massive audience trying to erase your child from ever having existed. Which completely, of course, ignores your grief and setting possibly thousands of unhinged, insane people after you to harass you, stalk you, attack you, whatever, for trying to take your guns. Right? Oh, you're a liar, you're fake, you're CIA, you're trying to take our guns. And then, of course, death threats. That's the result of what Alex Jones said. And he did it all for profit. And I think that's the most important / sickening thing here. If Alex Jones is playing a character like he claims, well then, that character, he did all that for money, knowingly. And he's not just, it's insane. No, he's doing this for money, for clicks, for shares, for cash, for fame, for notoriety, so that people will come to his website and buy his crappy-ass supplements. When you take all that into account, it really exposes who they are. Which is why, of course, they got to have a distraction. And they found one with pretty much no evidence. But so many people, I'm seeing it already in the chat, right? The mere mention of Hillary Clinton on the right, and especially on the right, but on the left as well. They get this, they hear her name, and it's a Pavlovian reaction. There's frothing at the mouth. Oh my God, the Clintons. They eat babies. They rape them, and they murder them. Horrible. No, here's the thing. Clintons are Washington corrupt. They're at the top of the heap because they've been the most successful at being corrupt. Look, and they did a thousand terrible things. Just look at the foundation with Haiti, right? A lot of Haitian people legitimately angry with the Clintons. Totally. They've taken money from just about every big corporation and special interest you can find. I mean, the Clintons, even back when they did so-called welfare reform, disastrous consequences for the black community, of course. But that's not the same as saying that they're cooking and eating children for Satan. Come on, man. Hey, you can dislike someone vehemently, even, as I do with the Clintons, without needing to resort to lie about them. The reason I don't like them is because of the bad stuff that they've done. I don't have to make up new stuff. That's my problem here. So you don't need to lie about them. But here's the thing. They also, all right, do they actually have a legal reason to try to pull her in? Well, Jones' lawyers point to one of the Sandy Hook relatives speaking at the DNC convention in 2016 and being praised by Clinton. Well, so that's their proof. Hillary Clinton must be funding them in their lawsuits because one of them spoke at the DNC in 2016, and oh my God, Hillary Clinton agreed with them. You got him. Nailed him. Oh, wow. Oh my God, a person in favor of gun control goes and speaks at DNC because they lost their kid to gun violence. They spoke at a convention hosted by a party that is also in favor of gun control. Wow, that's your evidence. Compelling. Incredible. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton's in favor of oxygen? Just like that plaintiff is in favor of breathing? Coincidence? I think not. Must be in cahoots. We have to depose her right now in order to get to the bottom of this. Come on, man. Complete and total insanity. I hope Alex Jones gets to court and gets absolutely financially fucking wrecked for the pain and suffering that his shenanigans for money inflicted upon those families who have already lost so much. All right. Go to the next story here. Now I turn to the Democrats. All right. The Republican Party has been furiously pumping out bills to disenfranchise voters, following the defeat, of course, of Donald Trump in the 2020 election. So now they claim massive voter fraud, which isn't true. There's been no evidence of that. Didn't actually happen. But, hey, facts be damned, right? This has all been part of their plan to try to ensure that they stay in power, despite changing demographics and a much more progressive youth. Well, if we just stop those people from voting, well, then we continue to stay in power for perpetuity. And you guys can recall, every time I bring up a story about voting rights and voter suppression, you can just go back to when they admitted it. When they admitted, yeah, we just want to make it sure that, less people vote. That was Paul Weyrich, the founder of the Moral Majority, numerous other conservative think tanks. He said, we don't want more people to vote because if they do, we lose. We lose. And in fact, numerous Republicans, they haven't exactly been shy about this, including Donald Trump, have openly admitted the same thing. That if more people voted, Republicans would never be in power again. Because it turns out their policies are deeply unpopular. They give all the money to the rich, all the tax cuts to the rich, screw over regular working people in favor of the donors, in favor of the elite, and do incredibly unpopular policies. So, no, most people are not at all interested in the Republican Party. And so they've got to, do voter suppression, stop people from voting, make sure that less people turn out, that they gerrymander districts, et cetera, right? So they're essentially rigging the rules. So now we rightly focus on those efforts. because they're important to point out. But okay, what's being done against those efforts? The Democratic Party says, well, okay, we oppose the Republicans and their plans to stop, voter suppression. What are they actually doing about it? Well, it turns out, sadly, not a lot, almost nothing. At least nothing concrete. In fact, the last thing that was done was Biden signing an executive order. This executive order was supposed to protect and promote the exercise of the right to vote. What did it actually do? Again, really nothing. To be fair, there's only so much that can be done with voting rights through executive orders. But obviously something more needs to happen. And now, according to Vanity Fair, quote, 4 months later, after that executive order, Biden and the Democrats appear no closer to stopping the Republicans' anti-voting crusade. In fact, they've actually lost ground since then. States like Georgia and Florida have enacted draconian voting restrictions, with Texas poised to do the same. Biden has spoken passionately and eloquently in defense of the vote, and Kamala Harris has been working on the issue since the beginning of the summer, but they haven't managed to get their party unified around a strategy to combat the GOP, with their pro-democracy bills still held hostage to the Senate filibuster. Honestly, I don't see what Kamala Harris is doing, and you know what? Speaking eloquently and passionately about the right to vote is still not going to actually get anything done. So that's the big problem. We're seeing a lot of words, but there's not a whole lot of action going on. Now, the article continues by saying Biden legitimately seems to recognize the danger of what the Republicans are doing, but it's been hard to understand what exactly he wants his party to do about it. That seems crazy to me. Why would you, one, not have a unified message, and two, not have a plan to go against voter suppression? Honestly, voter suppression is the biggest problem here when it comes to getting people out to the polls and actually getting a majority. If you don't have a plan and don't consider, a way to fight against that, to ensure that everybody is actually able to vote and vote in a way that is easy, that is accessible, that makes sure that the most people turn out in a so-called democracy, well, if you're not doing that, then are you, not trying to win? Are you trying to lose? Or are you trying to make it so that you have these 50-50 Congresses that you don't get the ability to push through your agenda? And so that's the problem, okay? Pushing through your agenda. So now, Biden's agenda is okay. I'll take it. I supported Bernie Sanders. And Bernie Sanders had a much better, more robust agenda on a lot of different issues. Again, no politician's perfect. I'm to the left of a lot of those policies. But still, you get something done. You got to get something done, or else you're not going to win re-election. That's political reality. So what are you doing to try to get those things passed? He's given up on student loan cancellation. He could do it. By the way, that's one of the things he could do without Congress, is he could say, okay, I just want to cancel all student loans. Cancel all student loan debt. That's it. We're done. Free. All, $1.7 trillion student loan debt, gone. Look at what I did for you. Now you can, vote me in, right? I helped you out. I got rid of your student loans. Wonderful. That would do a lot. It would do a lot for a lot of people, but they're not going to do that. No $50,000 in student loan cancellation. Not even $10,000 in student loan cancellation. Nothing. So that's a failure that is directly on him, that doesn't actually involve Congress. Now, as far as voting rights goes, well, he needs Congress. And that's unfortunate because the Republican Party is fairly fascist. It's fascistic at this point. So you can't really work with them. And they have absolutely no interest in working with you either. And so that's a problem. If you want to pass pro-voting rights stuff, for example, the John Lewis voting rights bill, well, you're going to have to get rid of the filibuster, right? Also, if you want to protect voting rights, Me personally, I would pack the court. I'd just pack the Supreme Court with pro-voting rights justices in order to try to restore the lost sections of the Voting Rights Act that have been stripped away by the conservative Supreme Court. That's what I would do. Now, the thing is, Joe Biden's not going to do that. He's not a transformational president. In fact, he has promised his donors nothing will fundamentally change. That's not just bad, that's terrible for democracy, because you have Republicans that are pushing all of these anti-voting, anti-democracy bills, and they're not, and the Democrats are not doing anything to fight against him. So now here's what they said about this. According to the New York Times, White House officials and Biden allies have expressed confidence to voting rights groups that the groups could, quote, out-organize voter suppression, essentially believing that Democrats can turn out enough votes to overcome the GOP's anti-democratic measures. Well, now wait a minute. If you've got nothing done, or very little done, other than coronavirus relief, which was done without Republican help, by the way, through reconciliation, okay, but if that's your only achievement in 4 years, is that really going to lead to bigger turnout, especially in the face of all of these measures? I'm really, really concerned about that. Oof. That's it? Oh, no, just out-organize them. Oh, that's all you got to do. Just out-organize them, guys. All these massive barriers. I mean, forget the fact that people are forced to wait in line for 6+ hours in some cases. Forget food and water not being able to be delivered to people who have been waiting in line for 6+ hours to vote. Polling places in minority areas being shut down. The voting rolls being purged by Republicans. Districts being gerrymandered to hell. But it's okay, guys. Just out-organize all of that while we sit in the White House and play patty cakes with Republicans. No, come on, man. Now, White House officials, after this got out, which caused a lot of outrage, they said, oh, we don't actually recall making such comments to advocates. But, look, that focus on turnout is broadly in line with how the administration has actually approached the issue. So their deeds have backed up that point of view. In fact, here's Sherilyn Eiffel, who said this, quote, I've heard an emphasis on organizing. This is, she's the president of the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, talking to the New York Times. Quote, from the Daily Beast here, Vanity Fair. That suggests the administration, instead of fighting the Republican assaults on the franchise, is more or less accepting them as an unfortunate reality and prioritizing efforts to overcome the barriers to the ballot box rather than on Capitol Hill. Now, you'll be right to ask this question. I think it's an incredibly fair question. Jeff, what can Biden actually do? He's the president. He's the head of the executive branch. The problem here lies in Congress, which is 50-50. And you have two senators that are openly on the record as being against removing the filibuster. That's Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. They say in no circumstance will they get rid of the filibuster. All right, well, you can't exactly force them to get rid of the filibuster, but I believe that as head of the party, the president, understand the president, and we're playing politics here now, okay? The president is literally supposed to be the head of the Democratic Party. So the president has something called the bully pulpit, okay? You can use that bully pulpit. That's why it's called the bully pulpit, to push, people to do the things that you want them to do with public pressure. As Joe Biden went out and put public pressure on Joe Manchin, in the very tiniest sense, a little bit. Not very much, though. Okay? Now, other things that you can do with the bully pulpit is have some, or not the bully pulpit, sorry, but like behind the scenes, for example, you could urge Chuck Schumer, for example, to start removing Joe Manchin from some important committee assignments. I'm sure you wouldn't be happy about that unless you play ball. Now, understand if you're thinking, well, these are some dirty tactics, Jeff. Yeah, politics is fucking dirty. You have to, in this case. Urge a stop to fundraising on their behalf. Why not? If you're going to do something, why not take a page out of the Republican playbook and go after the Democrats who don't want to play ball with your agenda? I tell you what, if it were my agenda, and I actually cared about it, I would be fighting like hell to get these Democrats on board. And yes, I might play a little dirty because guess what? That's what you have to do. It's not about, oh, my integrity as a lawmaker. No, it's about getting things done for my constituents. That's what it's about. I'm going to get shit done, right? I get in office, watch out. I'm going to do everything I can to fight for the people, to fight to, for the people who got me into that office. And not just that, but for everybody. I'm focused on results. All right, let's do it. Let's get the, public option or whatever, right? And for me, it'd be Medicare for all, but you know what right? Joe Biden ran in the public option, so that's why I'm saying that. But yes, why not do that? And here's the thing. The Democratic Party already does those tactics, but they do it to progressives all the time. They remove progressives from committee assignments or deny them committee assignments if they're too critical in the party. They deny them fundraising access to the vans, the NGP system, the mailing lists. They do all of that stuff to progressives anyway. So of course they could do it to the centrist Democrats if they wanted to. And apparently they don't seem to want to. And that is the problem here. And so, look, I wish the Democrats would get tough. I wish Biden would get tough on the centrist Democrats. But unfortunately, he's defending the centrist Democrats. And more importantly, here he is. I'm going to show you a video here from the recent Biden town hall of him defending the filibuster, the very thing that is stopping him from protecting those voting rights. Take a look.
So why is protecting the filibuster, is that more important than protecting voting rights, especially for people who fought and died for that?
No, it's not. I want to see the United States Congress, the United States Senate, pass S1 and S4, the John Lewis Act, get them to my desk so I can sign them. But here's the deal. What I also want to do, I want to make sure we bring along not just all the Democrats. We bring along Republicans who I know better. They know better than this. And what I don't want to do is get wrapped up right now in the argument whether or not this is all about the filibuster or, look, the American public, you can't stop them from voting. You tried last time. More people voted last time than any time in American history in the middle of the worst pandemic in American history. More people did. And they showed up. They're going to show up again. They're going to do it again. But what I want to do is I'm trying to bring the country together. And I don't want the debate to only be about whether or not we have a filibuster or exceptions to the filibuster or going back to the way the filibuster had to be used before.
But isn't that the only way you're going to get it done right now?
No, I don't believe that. I think we can get it done.
If you agree with the former president, he has called your as you call him, your old boss, that it is a relic of Jim Crow.
It is.
If it's a relic of Jim Crow, it's been used to fight against civil rights legislation historically. Why protect it?
There's no reason to protect it other than you're going to throw the entire Congress into chaos and nothing will get done.
All right.
Nothing at all will get done.
Okay. So, first off, let me give credit to Don Lemon. That's a really good question. And he really pressed him on the issue. All right. Let me just say this as politely as I can to Biden, to his response of, oh, if you throw the filibuster out, nothing's going to get done. It'll be chaos. Nothing's already getting done. Nothing is being done at all. And add to that, about 100 Congress members already voted to overturn the election. It's already chaos. You just don't know it. Or maybe you're just not paying attention. I don't know. What I do know is that unless we have a leader that is actually willing to upset the status quo, and that's not Joe Biden, nothing's going to get done. And Republicans will continue to chip away at our voting rights until they successfully disenfranchise everybody but their own voters. And what little democracy that we have left will be dead. That's the situation. That's the situation right now. That is what Republicans are working towards, and that is what they've been working towards since at least the 1980s, 1970s, to chip away at voting rights. Ever since black people got the right to vote, they've been chipping away at it. You cannot be this naive. There's no way. Look, what you have to do is you have to fight, okay? And you've got to fight now. As Ephil says to the Times, quote, "We cannot litigate our way out of this, and we cannot organize our way out of this. What we need is a real leader, a real leader." And Joe Biden, just as I said before, unfortunately, has been proving that on the stuff that really, really matters, he's not up to the task. He's not up to challenging the status quo, never was. And unfortunately, this is why Republicans, in the long run, are going to eventually win. Until we do something to stop this destruction of our fundamental rights. And it's going to take bold, big action. Okay. These people don't want expanded voting rights or the will of the people. They want minority rule through suppression, disenfranchisement, and disproportionate representation. Fortunately, 100%. All right, one more. We'll have some fun. We have Trump crying. Kind of round it out for the weekend here. Former President Donald Trump took some time out of his day from eating hamburgers, drinking Diet Coke, watching cable news, to rage at baseball. Specifically, Cleveland's franchise for changing the team's mascot from the Cleveland Indians to the Cleveland Guardians. So in a statement issued through spokesperson Liz Harrington, by the way, this is the way to get past the Twitter ban, here's what he said. "Can anybody believe that the Cleveland Indians, a storied and cherished baseball franchise since taking the name in 1915, there's no way he wrote this, are changing their name to the Guardians? Such a disgrace. And I guarantee that the people who are most angry about it are the many Indians of our country." Oh, no. He continues. "Wouldn't it be an honor to have a team named the Cleveland Indians? And wouldn't it be disrespectful to rip that name and logo off those jerseys? The people of Cleveland cannot be thrilled, and I, as a former baseball fan, cannot believe things such as this are happening. A small group of people with absolutely crazy ideas and policies is forcing these changes to destroy our culture and heritage." It's baseball. "At some point, the people will not take it anymore." To that I say, wah. Sad. Baby. Literally. All right, guy, look. You think he's a baseball fan? There's no way. Okay, whatever. I just think that the guy can't help himself. But all right, let's talk about it. Let's get into the real reality of this. So now this is a finalization of the process that's been happening for a little while. So you've had different, sports teams, franchises that have been looking at some of the racist caricatures that they've had, and they're like, not good. Yeah, we should probably change those. And so we're going to get rid of that offensive imagery, so that look, it's just a good thing to do. Okay, honestly, it's a better thing to name your team something different than a racist caricature. I'm not sure why I need to explain why this is a good thing. Okay, but anyway, it's a good decision to move the team on from these stereotypes. In fact, Cleveland had removed the Chief Wahoo logo, which again, that's like super offensive, a caricature of a Native American character from uniforms following the 2018 season. And so, understand though, that this is not as a result of a small group of crazy people trying to destroy our culture and heritage. No, it's a company making a decision to do something that I actually think is positive. I don't really have any criticism of that. Just, whatever. In fact, here's their new name. The Guardians. The choice of the Guardians drew inspiration from Cleveland's architectural history. In fact, they got the name from the Guardians of Traffic. All right. So, hey, let's take a look. What is the Guardians of Traffic? Oh, that's cool. I like it. I'm not a sports fan, but hey, there you go. Kind of cool. So now, Trump also said, I guarantee that the people who are most angry about it are the many Indians of our country. Okay, first off, does the man understand the difference between indigenous Native Americans and people from India who are actual Indians? I tend to think that, hey, if you're from India, that makes you an Indian. I don't think he knows the difference, honestly. The man is the dumbest man alive. Holy shit. But all right, so let's push back on him using some actual indigenous voices. We'll start with Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, who made history as the first Native American cabinet secretary. She called this a, quote, welcome and necessary change. Quote, I'm glad to see that the Cleveland baseball team is finally changing its name. The long practice of using Native American mascots and imagery in sports teams has been harmful to indigenous communities. Haaland posted on Twitter on Friday. A prominent Native American activist also praised the club's decision by saying, and this is Crystal Echohawk, founder and executive director of Illuminative, says, oh, I like that name, Illuminative. Oh, that's really clever. She said this, Cleveland's move proves it's possible for sports teams to eliminate harmful names and mascots. It's a major step towards righting the wrongs committed against Native peoples and is one step towards justice. Echohawk renewed her call for other sports teams with names evoking Native Americans to follow suit. And look, is that one step towards justice? Sure. Is there a lot more that needs to happen? Absolutely. For one, we need to protect water protectors, Native American water protectors, from having their lands despoiled by oil pipelines. That's one major thing that needs to be done. That is actually incredibly substantive. This, not so substantive, but hey, it's nice. But yes, we can absolutely do more things and do better for the indigenous people in this country. And everywhere else. Canada has treated its indigenous population horrifically. And so, with the schools that they had set up, that essentially was, the cultural genocide to try to quote unquote tame the savages. And we also have that same kind of history here in the country, stealing Native people away from their actual families and putting them in these schools and trying to erase their history. And so those are significant steps. This is a branding issue. Nonetheless, I still think it's welcome and helpful. But ultimately, getting back to nonsense, Donald Trump, and here's the ultimate takeaway from this, at least on him, Trump doesn't care about baseball. Very, very unlikely. He also doesn't care at all about quote-unquote Indians. No, Donald Trump wants to get mad about things. because that's what he does. It's old man yells at cloud. He's a meme at this point. Okay? And so it's super sad, but it does help him stay relevant. I know it's partly my fault as well for doing segments about him, but I got to make fun of him. You know why? Because it's fun to do. It's fun to make fun of racist old men. I'm super honest about that. It's essentially what it's about. Still, racist old men and ignorance, it's always good to mock these things, especially as we move forward as a country. That's all I have to say. All right. Maybe you're not paying attention to the fact that any American family with children of the age of nothing's getting done. No, Paul, that's actually great. I've talked about that before. Yeah, those payments are fantastic. But here's the thing. If you don't listen to fair criticism, you have to understand fair criticism is fair. Okay? That coronavirus relief, that's really good. Some of the stuff that he's done in the executive orders, pretty good. Could they do more? Absolutely. But this is fundamental. This is voting rights that we're talking about. Voting rights. One of the single most important things to make sure that Biden actually gets his agenda done. I actually want that agenda to get done. But if you're not willing to criticize, and if you're going to call anybody that does mild criticism towards Biden a bit like Republicans, you're in the wrong fucking place, dude. Let me just tell you. Then you're being a cultist, okay? Then you're being the people that are sycophantic to Trump. You have to be able to allow all legitimate criticism of all the politicians. Look, I've criticized Bernie Sanders. I criticized AOC. I have before. I think she could do more. I think she could do better. I think Bernie Sanders could do better, especially on foreign policy stuff. So yes, you can criticize politicians, and you should criticize politicians. And so, especially when you think it's fair. And I went through that entire segment when I was criticizing Biden to do it in a way that takes different perspectives and what he can actually do with his power and what he's not able to do with his power. And all I'm saying is he should get a little tougher on this because this is incredibly important. Incredibly important. And yes, we are less than a year in. Yeah, that's true. And guess what? There's one more year left until the midterms. You need to do something or else the Democratic Party is going to lose in the midterms to Republicans. And then, of course, there will be no chances to get anything done, even if you do eliminate the filibuster. So, no, this is important. Oh, it's only been a year in. Yeah, and guess what? The way elections work is you've got a midterms that could alter the entire course of the rest of Biden's presidency. So, keep that in mind. That's why we have to get things done as soon as possible. All right? Again, I'm the only reason I'm getting tough on this is you've got to understand how the system works, and you have to understand the limits of people's power and what they can actually do. Here I'm flailing around because I'm getting pissed off. You've got to understand what people are able to do and what they can do and what they should do. Okay, the limits of their power. That's why I'm trying very hard to find some fucking nuance in here to try to give you nuance. And I still get called, oh, you guys sound like Republicans. Fuck off. Seriously. Chill. If you can't handle light criticism of the people that you like and support, then what are you doing in politics? You have to be able to criticize people so they can do better. What producer? I don't have a producer. It's just me. Biden's been president for just over 6 months, not a year. And guess what? We still don't have that much time to go. Politics moves incredibly fast. They're already, gearing up. Republicans gearing up for the midterms. Biden could forgive student loan debt today. Yes, absolutely. He wants to vote for Republicans who won't bite for Trump. He has to tread carefully, I guess, but I hate it. But who is going to do that? Who is going to do that? I don't see any Republicans that are going to go with Joe Biden. So, yeah. All right, anyway, I'm way over time. I gotta go. I love you all, but sometimes you frustrate the shit out of me. By the way, one more thing with the student debt. All right, 2 more servicers pulled out of the government contracts. Okay, with student loan servicing. Right now, the government owns student loans, and they hire these private companies, private corporations, to go and recoup those. Okay, so 2 more of those companies have pulled out. I forget the names. All right, so at this point, why does Biden not cancel student loans? There's no specific reason that he can't functionally. It's because he chooses not to. And that, I have a big problem with that. Because I would give him a ton of credit if he actually did that. It would help so many people, including minorities, by the way, who, yes, hold... And no, some people will come back, well, wow, more white people and affluent people hold student loan debt. That's because there's more white people in this country. And as far as affluence, well, because of the structure and the history of racism and etc., black people don't have as much wealth. But what black people also hold is a lot of student loan debt compared to their income. They end up doing so because they end up having to borrow more in order to go to those schools. And they end up, of course, having more... obviously they have a more higher debt to income ratio. They have higher interest rates and things like that that they end up having to pay back. And they also have more of a rate of not being able to finish college as a result. We've got to cancel student loan debt. Come on. Yeah, and of course there was a $15 minimum wage as well that they could have pushed a little bit harder on. And they didn't. If Biden does cancel any student loan debt, it will be minimal, and it might save it for the right time for political reasons. The banks wouldn't like it. That's absolutely true. Okay. Anyway, again here. I'm not a Biden advocate, but common sense dictates that he won't cancel debt. 1.7 trillion. Why wouldn't he? Like, how's that common sense? It would help so many people if he did. I just don't get it. But that's just me. I don't see how it's common sense to allow that's something that's such a drag on so many people in the economy. You know what I'm saying? It has a huge impact on consumer spending. And guess what? We need to get consumer spending up as a result of this pandemic. So, why should a doctor or a lawyer get a tax cut like canceling their debt? I don't give a fuck. Honestly, I hate the argument that because some wealthier people will benefit from something that helps a lot of people, that nobody should get it. Yeah, I don't give a shit if it helps a couple of rich people. So? It's going to help so many other people too. And you have to combine it with, of course, free college for everybody else. It's just better to do. I don't care that people would be mad. I'm sure a lot of people would be mad if you gave Medicare for all too. Oh, I liked my insurance. You get used to it. And because it's a better system. Medicare for all would also help rich people. That doesn't mean it's a bad policy. It helps way more. And in the end, and here's the other thing with rich people, they end up paying more in taxes anyway to pay for it than they ever would get back. Garbage talking point. Total garbage. Let the few benefit for the sake of the masses. It's almost like the talking about, it reminds me of the welfare, like food stamp fraud, stuff like that, right? Oh, there's a couple of lazy bums that are going to benefit from food stamps, so let's just cut off the whole food stamp system. Or we just keep the food stamp system, and it doesn't matter if a couple of bums benefit from it because of so many more people that are helping or that are being helped by this. So again, it's not a good talking point. It's not a good excuse. You have to help everybody. Everybody in, nobody out. That makes it harder to get rid of, too, by conservatives. That's why all these countries that have a universal healthcare system, that's why the government is unable to get rid of those systems, because so many people benefit, and it's incredibly popular. It makes it much more difficult to get rid of. What about past debt and future debt? That's a good okay, that's a good question. You can't really do anything about the past debt, but future debt, you make college and public colleges and universities tuition free. That's what you're supposed to do. As far as people who paid off their student loans, there's a lot of people who say, look, I may have paid off my student loans and I'm not going to benefit from this, but I can see so many others that have. Don't stop a good policy as a result of that. All right. Anyway, I'm super late. I do appreciate though the different perspective here, and look, even being challenged on this, I'm totally fine with that, and it is a good thing for me to think about as well. I'm in England and planning to move family for Scotland for free education. You do what you got to do. There's a lot of self-serving people. Well, yeah, welcome to the government. Welcome to reality. All right. Anyway, again, I got to go. Thank you, everybody. Try to have a good weekend. Have a great weekend, in fact. We'll see you back here on Monday. Have fun. Stay safe. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see y'all later.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man.
Mike Pounds.
There's insanity in the control room.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.